Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of Campers and Vans Getting Coffee. This episode, I have on Adam and Vanessa of Create Wondr at createwondr.com and on Instagram. And we just get into a lot of stuff. Like we focus a lot and talk about kind of their business, Create Wondr, and how they chose their name and how they make income from their videos on YouTube and affiliate marketing and their ebook that they have. And we talk about, kind of how to build a website and all sorts of things like that. And then on top of that, we also talk about their personal life and, their van. They have the longer wheelbase, 170-inch wheelbase sprinter van. So we just talk about all this stuff. It's a really good episode. And it was really fun to talk to these guys. So I'll stop talking, and now you guys can hear from Adam and Vanessa. So here we go. Adam and Vanessa, hello. How's it going, guys?
Hey, good.
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Super excited to have you guys on the show. So do you guys live full-time in your van?
We do live full-time, in our van. We've been in the van and traveling, I think, 7 months now.
Right on, 7 months. So how's it going?
It's going really well so far. And it's funny because you actually caught us at a time where we're still sleeping in the van, but we're visiting family. So that's why we're able to sit down for a long chat. And we've traveled, all through the States, basically on the West Coast and down south, and then made our way back home to Canada right now.
Okay, perfect. Wow, cool. So, you're kind of at a interesting point. 7 months in, you're pretty committed to it. You've been in it a lot and probably experienced everything, but you haven't been doing it for years, So, I guess we'll kind of get into this, but I'm just curious, how's it looking? Do you guys have any plans to, is your plan now just to keep going and do it for as long as you want?
Yeah, we know when we originally built the van and started getting into how we were going to approach it, we always left it open-ended. We said we'll travel as long as it felt good, if we were happy and having a good time doing it. So as of now, we have, I guess, plans at least until the end of the summer living in the van. But realistically, I think it will go much further than that. So I can see us doing it for a couple years or a few years
for sure.
Full time. So
right on. Cool. So I guess it's enjoyable then. You guys are liking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Good to hear.
There's not that many negatives that outweigh the positives. By far, we enjoy ourselves, most of the time, and there's only a couple little things probably that get, wearisome or irritating for us.
So what kind of things are those? If you can think of any that kind of might get annoying over time.
I think the biggest thing for me is not having a constant safe spot to park all the time. I guess the thing would be if we're in BLM land and we know this is a safe spot and we can come back there every night after we've been adventuring or been in town and then go back out, that's the best scenario. But when we are in a city and we're in different spots every day and trying to figure that out, I find that a little bit taxing.
So when you mean in different spots, you're just kind of trying to stealthily park somewhere and spend the night?
Yeah, or if you can't find a good spot, then you're in a Walmart parking lot or the gym parking lot or something like that, as opposed to waking up in nature, which is kind of the ideal situation, which obviously doesn't happen all the time, but it's what I wish would happen all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you. So is that kind of the issue where you would rather be in a different spot, or are you concerned with security or having someone knock on the door in the middle of the night and telling you to move?
I think it's the searching part of it that I don't really like.
Okay.
It's not, I don't really have an issue of where we find spots to park and that sort of thing. And we've only ever been knocked on twice in the entire time that we've been on the road. But it's just if we were in BLM spots, you don't have to be like super stealthy with like walking out the windows, and you can wake up and enjoy a sunrise and do photography and that sort of thing. Like the pressure sort of is not there when as it is when you're in town and you're like, okay, well, I better get up early and make sure I'm off this street before people like go to work and see us.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And just to be clear, BLM is the Bureau of Land Management, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Canada, it's actually called Crown Land.
What is it called?
Crown Land.
Okay. And so that's the same idea, basically?
Yeah. Like we're still kind of tied to the UK, so that I guess they call it Crown Land. And we didn't even know, like, we knew of Crown Land here, but we didn't know what BLM land was or what that meant down in the States. And it's so vast. Like some states, you know, it could be half of the state or 2/3 of the state that is BLM land. And as long as you can have access to it, then there's some of the most beautiful landscapes in the States, including like national parks. Like you can find BLM land that usually surrounds the parks that are just as beautiful, if not even better.
Man, that's so cool. And so how does the camping work exactly if it is BLM? Can you just kind of go anywhere?
Often like there are roads or little like designated kind of camping areas, and sometimes there are little fire pits that are there already set up. But I believe with BLM land, you can stay in one spot up to 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, you have to move your vehicle, but you can still stay on that same BLM land. So you can literally just move
a couple of feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, they want people squatting or setting up like a really full-time permanent spot. But, you know, we just approach it as long as we're clean and respectful. And if we're talking to any of the forestry people there, then yeah, as long as we're good about it, then we've never stayed in a spot like one kind of spot longer than 4 or 5 days. So we've never like pushed the limit at all.
It doesn't work to stay like with our van for 2 weeks because we would run out of water and food.
Yeah.
So just literally can't even do that.
Yeah.
But I think the rule is there so that, you know, you're not like setting up a permanent tent situation and then have a car and booting to town to do everything and then come back every night.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So how do you guys know if you're in BLM land, or like how do you find that? Is there a map or an app or something that you guys have?
There's an app. We use iOverlander the most. That isn't like specific to BLM land, but it will show you if there is BLM camping.
Okay.
It just shows all kinds of different camping options, and then you can click on those different options, and then it will tell you if it's BLM.
And then, like, the old school way of doing it too is like going in and talking to people. So you can actually physically go into the BLM local office, like in one of the cities that you're in, and they'll have an actual map of all of the BLM lands. And then also, surprisingly, the National Park Service is usually really good about pointing them out too. Let's say like we were in Joshua Tree, there's a couple different BLM lands that are just like a 2-minute drive from Joshua Tree that you can stay at. That one's not like the best, but if you just need a place to lay your head for the night, then you can do that and then pop back in. So they are really good at pointing out those spots as well.
Nice. Perfect. Yeah. Isn't it funny that I just like automatically assume you have to have a map or an app or something? You can't just ask somebody.
Right. Yeah. Like people will tell you. Or like old school, like cartography maps of the BLM sections. Yeah.
Cool. So is there, do you guys have any, can you think of any offhand, like free camp spots that you had found that just were like incredibly awesome or really cool to hang out at? Do you have any stories or anything like that offhand that you could think of?
I think the coolest one was actually Valley of the Gods, which is in Utah, southern Utah. That the Valley of the Gods is all BLM land, so you can camp anywhere. And there's tons and tons of little like designated pull-offs that you can camp at. So I think that is probably like the most epic because there was like nobody there, and you're just surrounded by these really amazing, like monolithic rocks.
Wow, that is cool. So what was that called again? The Valley of the Gods?
Valley of the Gods.
Where's that at?
Southeast Utah. It's close to Monument Valley.
Okay.
And like, it's like if you're coming up from
the Grand Canyon.
From the Grand Canyon, you kind of have to go by it if you're going to go through like arches and canyonlands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those spots that it's not like well advertised, so it's nice because there's not a lot of people in there. We might have saw a couple of cars, but it's still very beautiful. So if you're going to hit those busy sections like Grand Canyon, Arches, Monument Valley, this is a nice reprieve from some of that stuff where you get like great scenery, but very quiet. You could spend a couple days in there and it's just beautiful. It's like the most quiet, I think, it's ever been. Like the desert's really good for that.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds great. Cool. So how did you guys meet?
We met at a bar.
Nice.
We met in Nova Scotia, Canada. So we were both going to school at the time, and then we didn't have any mutual friends or any like reason to meet, I guess.
Even though we lived only like 5 houses away or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a block away from each other, yeah.
That's crazy.
Basically, the short version is that I was with my group of friends and Vanessa was with hers. And then one of her friends saw me and thought that I would be her type and pushed Vanessa into me. So she kind of like ran into me on the dance floor. And then we started dancing. I kind of had to and talking. Yeah. And then, yeah, we exchanged phone numbers. And then I actually lost her phone number somehow. Like late at night, that kind of stuff happens. Uh-huh. And then I was like, oh, well, that's it for that. And then Vanessa ended up calling me the next day. And then, yeah, so on.
Wow. Perfect.
Yeah.
And that was
almost 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Congrats, guys. So when did the whole like kind of conversation or idea about van life come into the play?
It's a little while ago now.
It's been a long time. It was a long time in the making. We had moved all across the country. So we were on the East Coast in Halifax, and then we moved to the prairies in Saskatoon, and then we moved to the West Coast in BC, and then back to Halifax. So we had gone back and forth across the country for work, and it was every 2 years we were moving. So by the time we got back to Halifax, we were like, hey, this is ridiculous. Like we knew that Halifax wasn't going to be the end point for us. So we're like, well, how can we, bring our house with us when we're traveling? Because it's very expensive to keep doing what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And so we started looking at options there, and that was like the beginning of that. And that probably would have been almost 5 years ago now. So we started looking at like big RVs, and then we're like, maybe we'll convert a bus, and all those things seemed like really impractical just for the size. And then we started like downsizing the vehicles that we're looking at. And then I think on Instagram once we just found Sprinter Van Diaries.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God, that's what we have to do.
Yeah. They're like one OGs of traveling in a Sprinter, I guess, and putting their life on Instagram, because they did like the full North America down to the tip of South America.
Okay.
Yeah, in a 144, like a smaller version Sprinter. But we saw their design, and it was just so beautiful, and you could stand up in it, and that was just like a few years ago, I guess, that we saw that, and then put plans in place to be able to like purchase one and build it out.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. That's awesome. So you guys said that before you were doing all this moving for work. Is that right?
School and work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. School and work. So just for various reasons, you guys just had to keep moving, huh?
Yeah. So the first was for me to do my master's. So we were there for 2 years, and then I finished that, and then we moved for Adam to go to school, and then we moved again for work.
Oh, okay. So what do you, I guess, what did you guys do before, or what do you do for work? I guess let's just do that.
Well, right now we're just building Create Wondr. Mm-hmm. So we are focusing on van build, and we're actually putting out a van build ebook pretty soon.
Cool.
Next week or so. So that's what we've been focusing on, putting out YouTube videos and social media, and just building something online that we can travel and work at once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you guys do before this, though?
I was a house painter and drywall finisher. So yeah, just like heavily steeped in trades for like almost 10 years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like I worked for myself the last few years, my own company, painting and taping. Yeah. So it allowed me to learn some things and like the building trades, and that actually helped a lot for the van build.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And then my background is in environmental management.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was doing environmental consulting for environmental assessments that were being conducted here in Canada. So like, for instance, if a big company wanted to do like offshore drilling or seismic activity or something like that, then we would go in and consult with communities and put together an assessment and then provide that to the company and the government.
Okay. So are you involved with any of that kind of stuff anymore, or not so much?
No, we both, when we hit the road, we were like, we're just going to focus on our own thing and see what we can make with that.
Cool. See, both of you guys hadn't really had much experience with like an online business or building websites or anything, had you? Or did you kind of know that stuff before you did this?
No, just learning as we go.
Yeah.
What was that?
Just learning as we go.
Cool. Man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So you guys just kind of dove into it. So how did you learn? Were there any like particular resources or websites or anything that really helped you guys out?
Well, we have friends that have been very successful with creating an online business through YouTube and selling ebooks and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been like very, very helpful for us as just a resource to bounce ideas off of and support. And then for like website and that sort of thing,
it's just time. Like it's
time.
just, yeah, I don't think there's any specific place that we found all the information. You know, you just got to go out there and talk to people that are successful at it and research the types of products that you want to use. And some of it's trial and error and you swing and miss. And the other ones, it's very successful and it works out well for you. So
Right,
just a combination of things, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a good old fashioned Google search. You could find anything, huh?
Yeah. And really it is like, I think probably 90% of it is just trial and error and just consistency and putting in the time.
Mm-hmm. So what did you guys do first? Did you make your website first, or what was kind of the initial steps to getting into this?
We had our website first. I built our website on WordPress, but just actually recently switched over to Squarespace for ease of use.
Why? What was the reason for switching over?
It's so much easier to use, like a million times easier. I would never build a WordPress site again.
Sorry, WordPress.
Yeah. WordPress is like, it's very intuitive and there's maybe not as many options for layouts and stuff, but I'm really happy with, the results of the website, and it's quite intuitive and fairly simple to navigate. So that's why we decided to switch that over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that too. Sometimes the WordPress is so there's so many options and different things out there, like plugins and themes and everything, that it could just be like overload to try to choose something that works. Whereas like I've never personally used Squarespace, but with less options, it's sometimes easier where they have good themes that look good and stuff, and you could just have a few to choose from and just pick one, and it's great rather than spending all this time deciding and thinking, did I do the right one or whatever. It's nice just to have something a little more packaged, huh?
Yeah, and I found like with WordPress, because I actually really did enjoy my platform and the theme that I was using, and I kind of got used to it. But I found if I wanted to change like one little thing, I'd have to go in the back end and tweak like 5 different spots to make one small change with a font or something. Mm-hmm. So that sort of thing I just found very like time consuming. If I wanted to do anything, it was like, okay, I'm minimum like 5 hours on this.
Oh my gosh.
Where with Squarespace, I'm like, okay, I know it's going to take me 20 minutes to do this, and I can move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. How are they like related, like price wise? Are they similar in like monthly payments, or
I think that it was a little bit cheaper maybe with Squarespace.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that though.
I don't think it was anything ridiculous either way though, because I don't remember you saying, "Oh my God." Like,
yeah, I was like shocked by the price of switching. I think because we were already with WordPress and we were hosted with GoDaddy, Squarespace is a complete package, so they host and provide the web building service. So there was a bit of transfer to get our domain over to Squarespace, but that was, and I think you have to pay a little bit extra to do that. But if you're just starting out, then personally, I would go Squarespace all the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It just makes things much easier, I'm sure. Like I use Bluehost Bluehost and WordPress for a lot of my stuff. And about a year ago, I got my site hacked, which then I have a few websites that are all kind of connected. So basically they all got hacked, and it was just like a huge headache to go through that, where doesn't Squarespace kind of control and take care of all the security and stuff for you?
Yeah. And that was another thing is like with WordPress, if we wanted to have a secured site, it was $200 extra a year, but mm-hmm. that was already included in the price with the Squarespace site. So that in and of itself, like we saved hundreds of dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just security, like the SSL, I think it is.
Right. Yes.
Well, when it's a locked site and you know it's secure if you're going on there.
Yeah, you definitely need that.
Important because like right now we don't have anything for sale, but we will have our ebook for sale. So we want people to make sure that they know when they come to our site that like their information is not going to be open for hacking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally true. And I've kind of found too that with WordPress and like kind of getting into all that stuff, if you don't really know a lot about it, there's a lot of companies that will kind of charge you and almost take advantage of you and like just talk in a lingo that you don't understand. And like for instance, when I had my site hacked, I had a couple companies call me because I guess I got put on a list or they saw that or whatever, and had very convincing arguments of like that I should buy from them and spend a couple $100s a month on their security stuff, when in reality, after I did some research on it, I really didn't need any of that stuff. So it is kind of it's kind of frustrating with all that stuff unless you're very familiar with it. I think I would recommend just doing Squarespace like you guys have done.
Yeah. I am really glad, both of us are really glad that we made the switch over.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So so you guys having your ebook come out. So what is that specifically? It's about helping, go ahead if you can describe it.
It's a van build ebook. It's a guide
in
building a van.
Yeah, so
specifically a sprinter van, but like basically turning any cargo van or any van or bus into a tiny home.
Right. And I guess our approach was we wanted it to be specific enough that someone could very closely like emulate our van if they wanted to, if they like the layout or something very similar to that. But we also wanted it to be broad to say, here's the materials that you could use, and here's the different, like all the different things. Like we're going to list our measurements and all materials that we use. So you could build any kind of cargo van. It's going to be a bit more specific for sprinters, like Transit, ProMaster. Like those three are usually lumped together.
In terms of like events, of course.
Yeah. But then overall, like whenever we were building, there was a couple ebooks out there and we actually bought one. And I can't remember the name, maybe Vanessa remembers, but we won't mention it anyway. But it was more of like an anthology of like
everything
it was
that
huge.
You could possibly get or put into
a van. Yeah, way too much information. So we wanted to kind of taper ours down and say, like, here's what we did, here's what's successful, and just give like a few other ideas. And then if people get a few really good tips out of it, I think it's worth it in the end. Like, for $20, if you save,
hundreds of hours.
It took so long to figure out the products that we wanted to use and like look at YouTube videos and Instagram for like what people used.
And while we were building, essentially what we were trying to do with the ebook is to create a product that we would have found helpful when we were building, because we didn't have anything like that. And so, sorry, one second.
That's all right.
We're at my parents' house and they have 4 dogs, and then we have our dog. Once it's barking, then it's like just can get out of control. But so we were trying to create a product that like we were looking for, because we couldn't find anything that was a step-by-step guide to help us. And that's essentially what we're doing, is we've laid out like everything from the planning phase all the way to the end where you move into your van, and taken all the guesswork out of like, okay, well, I have to do this, but I have no idea where in the building process I should do that. And then also, like Adam mentioned, the products that we used and why we use those products, and why we make the decision to buy certain things as opposed to other things. Because like we said, that ebook that we had bought was it was every option that you could possibly have. Right. And it didn't help us make a decision.
It didn't recommend anything, right? It just listed it all. So for us, we're giving, recommendations as to why, and then people, they could use half of those recommendations, or they can use all of them. And I think that people will find it helpful that way, because we have lots of people, because we post pictures on Instagram and we do van build design videos on YouTube, is that, they might not have very much skills, I guess, in carpentry or electrical, and they want to live in a van or travel, but they really don't know where to start. So we're hoping that our ebook can be a good start for them. And then that in combination with, the videos that we make and photos that we produce will be very helpful.
Yeah, cool. That's great. I mean, I'm sure that's definitely needed. It could be super intimidating to just kind of jump into this if you don't know what you're doing. So that's awesome that you guys have done this. So when is that's coming out in the next week or so, you said?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we'll have it up on the website. It'll probably be next week, at the end of next week.
Okay. So it should be out by the time this is released. So when people are hearing this, that should be available, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It'll be middle of May, week and a half. So
yeah.
Okay, great. And that's on your website, createwondr.com.
Yeah.
And Wondr has no E, right? Just WONDR.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll link to that in the description too. But that's cool. Very trendy. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going along the technical lines of website and stuff like we were talking about before. In order to have naming rights, you have to do a business name search with something that's general enough that you could grow into your business, but also kind of specific enough that describes you or what you're after. And then also we wanted that name on YouTube, Instagram, website, everything. So to find that is very difficult. So honestly, that's why we took the E out of Wondr, because nobody had Create Wondr across every platform.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's a good point. So you did, would you say you did is there a specific business name search that you went to or went through?
Yeah. In Canada, we have, when you register your business, you can do a business name search. That's named. So,
yeah. And then the other platforms, you just have to look to see if it's taken on, Instagram or YouTube or Twitter. We don't do that, but any of these social media platforms, we have to search and make sure, because we wouldn't want to be one name somewhere and then a different name or or our individual names. We wanted it the same, like name and branding across everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that for sure. Like make sure the domain's available, the one createwondr.com and all that stuff. And then you also made a really good point too, which I liked about the having it kind of portray your vibe and brand and what you want it to feel like, but then not making it so specific that if you do want to pivot or change your business a little bit, that the name makes no sense, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we could have been like Van Build whatever or something like that. But if, like you said, if you ever wanted to pivot or do something different with travel or health or lifestyle, then, you know, your name doesn't really match that anymore. So it's something that we learned just from talking to other people who have like maybe changed their names or who have had to do that. So,
yeah, I had to go through like a rebranding.
Yeah, which is very difficult, especially if you have a lot of content out there that you had to rebrand, or like a very complicated WordPress website, then it can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Or you could just do like me naming this show Campers and Vans Getting Coffee, and then I just like ignored that basically because the first episode it was a couple in a bus, so they're not even in a van, and then in none of these episodes no one's drinking coffee. So yeah, you can just ignore it too if you want, like me.
Campers, I think, at least like a more general,
right,
broader or whatever, and it's an alliteration with coffee. But even though we're not sitting in our van right now, I did brew like a French press black, so I am drinking coffee.
Ooh, all right, I like it. You're getting in the zone, getting in the vibe of it. So do you guys have, so you have this ebook coming out, and that'll be for sale, right? So you guys will be able to make some income off that?
Yeah.
Cool. And then do you have any other ways that you guys are able to generate income off your website or your social media channels?
So we do have an Amazon affiliate. So for our YouTube channel, products that we recommend and that sort of thing, if people follow the links, then we do get a referral fee from Amazon.
Cool.
Yeah. And like, it's only the things that we have put in the van for the build or that we use every day as far as gear. So that could be like clothing or like different items, like the stove or the fridge that we put into the van. So that's the only thing that we mention in our videos. And it's the stuff that it took us 2 years to figure out what we wanted for it. So if it helps somebody in the end, I don't know how many, like the sink is like everybody puts in the sink that we use now. I've seen like 12 people now have picked up the sink for their vans.
It's funny because we were actually visiting a couple in Portland, and he's building out a van, and he was like, one of the first things he said to us was like, I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys influenced Amazon's analytics. And we were like, oh, I didn't really like pay attention. He was like, yeah, before when I checked, the sink would just come up on its own, but now if you click the sink, it comes up with the foot pump that we also recommend. He was like, influenced Amazon. We're like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Just a few people have bought it together or something, so now it's a recommended thing. Because we have a foot pump in the van. We don't use an electric pump, and it's a very simple system. Like our whole electric and plumbing is very simplified.
Right. Wow, that's cool though. That's awesome. And so you guys are just, I think we'll just make it clear if people aren't familiar with affiliate. We've talked about it before on the show, but basically it's just when somebody clicks on your specific link to Amazon, then if they buy anything within the next 24 hours, I believe it is, you guys get a percentage of that. But then it's also important to note that it's not like if you click on the link, you're going to be charged more. It doesn't make a difference at all to the person buying the item. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool. And then there's a bunch of different like affiliates kind of websites and marketplaces that you can kind of look at to find links to use, but Amazon's probably the biggest for sure because everything's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Have you guys used any other affiliate links, or are you guys just with Amazon right now?
We're just with Amazon right now.
Okay.
It would have to be a good fit for us. Something that we would use ourselves if it was like linked to a website or to a product. Because Amazon is the easiest, like you said, because everybody already uses it. And if you're Amazon Prime, then that's like the holy grail of your existence, because you can just get everything, the next day or within 2 days. And even when we travel, we use it all the time because of like the lock boxes and, just being able to send it to a location and then pick it up in a few days, if we know we're going to be there in that time. So.
Oh, so they have like lockers or something, right? That you can kind of ship it to and then pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like to get mail on the road, if you're just traveling, especially in a different country, and you're always in a different spot every few days, it's like, I don't know how you do it without like getting it shipped to a certain Amazon box. Yeah. So, and we have like our own like regular mail box. Like we have a PO box in Vanessa's hometown for like the government to send us things. But other than that, just
okay.
Amazon.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I'm sure that's incredibly helpful to have those lockers that you can send it to, because else you wouldn't really be able to get anything. So I totally forgot about that. I've seen those before, but I totally forgot that those exist. So that's cool. So you guys built your van in like 2 months. Is that right? Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, that seems really quick. Were you guys basically working on that full time, like all day, basically?
For the first month, it was part-time, like evenings and weekends. And then the last month was
more full-time.
Like, yeah, full days.
Yeah. Wow. It just seems so quick, 2 months. That's awesome. So, wow, yeah. And then so there's the ebook that you have is basically kind of walking. I mean, you did everything, right? You did, was this thing just a gutted Sprinter van when you bought it and you had to put the insulation and do everything?
Yeah, we bought it. It was a plumber's vehicle. So there was some shelving in it. So we just had to demo that. And then it was an empty van, totally empty. And then, yeah, we did everything. The only thing that we didn't do ourselves was the insulation, because we had that spray foamed. But
okay.
That was the only thing that we didn't do in the entire build.
Wow, cool. And your van just it's awesome. It looks so nice. Like the aesthetic of it just is great. It's like the white with the wood and stuff. I love the feel of it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool, man. So I don't know. It just for some reason it's just incredible. It seems like you guys built that so fast. Is that the normal time that people kind of convert vans? I mean, I'm sure it's totally different, but is that kind of what people could expect to do if they got your ebook?
I don't know. Honestly, I think it depends. Like person to person, it will be different. Like we've seen people build them even faster. That is like working like 7 days a week, full time with like a couple people.
And maybe like 14-hour days or something.
Yeah, like the space, it's kind of not confusing, sorry. It's misleading because the space is so small, but everything is so custom. Like you have to order a bunch of like very specific like appliances or like sink and, pumps for it. And then everything, like all the walls are curved and you got to build a lot of cabinets in a small space. So it can take some time. I think most people would spend like a half a year building a van part-time. I'm just going to like approximate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping that like with the book, then it would taper down like the planning process and like
the guesswork of
guesswork out of it.
Like for instance, this is a good example. When we bought our fridge, so we had all of our appliances and everything that we were putting in, and we laid those out on the floor when the van was empty, and we're like, okay, we have to now tape out our cabinets, because we had an idea of what our sizes and dimensions would be, but until you actually get those products and take them out of the box and put them in, you don't really know what you're working with. And so when we did that, we had an idea of how deep we were going to build our cabinet. And then we got the fridge out and we're like, okay, well, maybe we can actually shrink this down a little bit and get a little bit more floor space. So we were able to do that, but you don't really get to do that until you have your products.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of time that goes into figuring those out, where if we knew other people who had put this fridge in and the dimensions of the cabinet that they use, we would be able to have a really good guide and there would be less questioning of like, okay, should I do this or should I do that? We'd just be like, okay, well, these people did this. We know it works. The fridge has space to breathe, and we can kind of make our decisions from there as a starting point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you guys have, what's the wheelbase length of your van?
It's a 170.
Okay, so that's the longer one.
Yeah.
Isn't there, so there's the 2 wheelbases, and then isn't there like an extra long Sprinter van too?
There is.
There is. They're more rare for sure. I've only seen a couple on the road. Because it's so long. Like, since the wheelbase is still 170, you have like that extra 2.5 or 3 feet out the back. And most people, if it's laid out really nice, I don't think you need that much room unless you have like a couple kids with you. Like, beyond 2 people, it just kind of gets to be like extra space. Maybe not as efficient and that. But we have met a couple that they do have a son that they're going to travel with, so they were looking for an extended, but they're very hard to find.
Yeah. Like, you could probably do our layout, but add in a really big shower if you want to.
Yeah, or a couch.
Add like an extended,
a lounging area or something. They get pretty big, because ours is 22, little over 22 feet long. So that one would be like 25, 26 feet. And even like a couple national parks, that's like the absolute limit for 22. The length, because of the switchbacks, you won't even be able to fit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like in Sequoia.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, like you can't, that's why we picked our size anyway, because we didn't want something so big that you couldn't easily travel through the national parks or like up the mountains and that.
Mm-hmm. So the limit you said was basically like 22 feet. So the 25 footer would probably be too long, right?
Yeah, or maybe that's like the absolute limit or something.
I think when we were in Sequoia, it was 22 feet and we just fit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's different everywhere, but yeah. Wow.
Because that was a pretty crazy drive through there. It's absolutely stunning, but the roads are very twisty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we were already like crossing the line, so if you were longer than 22 feet, you would definitely be a hazard.
Yeah, you'd have a rough time for sure. So were you guys pretty sure that you wanted to do the longer wheelbase instead of the shorter one? So what are they, 144 and 170? Is that the 2 wheelbases?
Yeah.
Okay. So
for a Sprinter van. Yeah.
Right. But you guys were pretty sure that you wanted to do the 170, or were you kind of debating going back and forth on those?
We debated.
Yeah.
We actually debated until
we bought
it. So we actually had designs for both layouts because of where we were located. So we're in Northern Ontario in Thunder Bay, which is on Lake Superior, and it's a smaller town. So there was nothing available locally. So we knew we are going to have to fly somewhere to buy a van. So we ended up flying to Toronto. And when we were looking, like, we were just constantly looking for probably the last year that we were finishing the renovations of our house. And we knew we were going to be buying at some point. So we were keeping an eye on prices and age of vehicle and quality so that we could have an idea of what would be a good deal whenever it got time to buy. And after we closed our house, then there happened to be a 170 that came up that was available, and it was a really good deal. So we flew down right away to Toronto and bought it. But if it was a 144 that came up, we would have bought that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you've been in it for 7 months now, what do you guys think? Do you like the longer wheelbase, or do you wish you had something shorter?
No, I love the longer wheelbase. I'm very glad it worked out that way.
Yeah.
Like, the 144 is really nice, but basically what we gained in the 170 for our layout anyway was having like a permanent bench seating, like table area. If we went to the 144, you lose about 2.5 feet or so. So basically that shrinks it right up. So your bed comes closer to the sliding door. So you kind of, maybe a seating area, you got to like give up something in order to do it. And like, we would have been happy either way, but I'm very glad that we have that extra space.
It's really comfortable in the van for two of us and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not really any time where we're like on top of each other, and we have our space, and we have our space to like eat, and we're not shifting things all the time. So that's really nice.
Perfect. So, Adam, you mentioned the plumbing briefly before. Can you kind of tell me more about what you guys have with the foot pump and stuff?
Sure. It won't take long, because like for us, when you're researching the van, you come up with like dozens of ideas or what people are using. So what we've heard from a lot of people is that for the little 12-volt electric pump, it's really noisy, and then it uses more valuable power. The solar is one of the most expensive parts of the van, and you don't have to put in a huge system. Then why would you? Because it's so expensive. So I don't think I've ever seen anybody use this marine foot pump. In my head, I thought, well, there must be some kind of foot pump that you can use to be hands-free. So ours literally is just 2 6-gallon jugs that are underneath our sink. One is our fresh water, the other one's the gray water. And then from the fresh water, it's just like a flex line that feeds into this little marine grade foot pump and then up into the faucet. So we use less water, because like each pump will just be like a rinse of a dish or washing our hands. And so it's way cheaper to install that compared to all of the plumbing fittings, in the electric pump. So it's just it's cheaper, easier. You use less water. Like, I recommend it to anybody.
Cool. Yeah, it just sounds like a nice, simple, very elegant design, especially when it is a foot pump, and then you can wash your dishes or whatever. You have both your hands free. So that's a good idea. I like that a lot.
Because we were looking at the 12-volt pump, and then we saw some people had installed the hand pump, but they were saying like, well, you have one hand that's on the pump, and then one hand is trying to wash the dishes. So I don't want to do that. That seems like it would just get really annoying really quick.
Yeah.
So then Adam was like, there's got to be something out there for your foot.
Yeah, and like, it's just for washing hands and dishes, because our drinking water, we use a Berkey tabletop filter. So it's like a gallon in size. So we just fill up that, and all of our drinking water comes out of there.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That's nice, because then you don't have to worry about finding, potable water for that, just for your sink,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Do you guys have a shower or bathroom or anything in there?
We have a toilet, and then we have a bag shower, but we've never used that thing.
Because we have gym membership.
So.
Yeah. So we use that for like when we're family and friends, like we are now, we'll use a shower there.
Yeah.
Or like when it's warm out now, like we enjoy swimming in the river or the lake, and we'll do that sort of thing over a big shower. Yeah. Like, I am jealous sometimes of people that have showers, but again, like, it just depends on your needs. Like, it is more costly, and it takes up more square footage in the van to, you have to have a huge gray water tank and fresh water. And then if you need a heater, if you want it to be a hot shower. So there's all those things to consider, price and fitting it into the van. But, we've met a couple triathletes that were on the road, and they train every day or 2 times a day. So like, they're like, when we're a couple and we're living in this van, we need a shower. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So like, that was a necessity for them. But for us, we're not training twice a day, so we can be more chill about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it is a nice thing to have for sure. But just saying, when you went through the whole list there, it is a lot to add to the van, with a bigger water tank, bigger gray tank, the heater. There's a lot more to add for just a shower,
Yeah, and then like an additional pump, and then there's a lot of fittings. Like when you list off like what you would need for hoses and fittings, it's it fills up a page. It's probably like 50 pieces or something that you would for the connection. So it's a lot. For our first van, we thought we're already planning the second one. I thought it would be good not to have a shower for this one.
Right.
There's also more parts and more ways that you can get a leak.
That water could leak out of it possibly.
if we have a leak, we're like, okay, there's only 2 spots this can happen.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Do you have anything on the list for the next thing you want to add or change on your van right now?
The only thing that we've talked about adding is the SBAR heater. So
what kind of heater was it?
It's called an SBAR.
Oh, okay.
Heater. It's a diesel heater that runs off of your diesel line and it exhausts outside the van.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it actually fits perfectly underneath the passenger seat. So we don't have a heater in the van, and we mistakenly assumed that it would just be gloriously warm the whole time we were in the States over the winter because we're Canadians, and you assume that just because there's no snow somewhere, it must be warm.
Right.
It was a few days, few nights that it was like too cold to sleep. But yeah, that would be like the next upgrade, I guess, because you can add it after the fact, since you don't have to like put it in the cabinets or like move anything around. So, it's a bit more pricier, and we've had friends that have built vans and then they just add it in afterwards whenever, it suited them. So that's an upgrade, but like we haven't changed the layout, or we're never going to change that part of it, like rip the van apart to renovate it.
No. Like we get asked this fairly often, like what we would change now that we've been on the road for 7 months, and every single time we're like, nothing. We wouldn't change anything.
Cool. That's awesome. That's good to hear that you guys did it right and planned it out and thought of everything ahead of time, and you're reaping the benefits now,
Yeah.
So what's your dog's name? Caden?
Yeah.
So is Caden a boy or a girl?
He's a boy.
So how's he enjoying living on the road?
I think he loves it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, like we do a lot of hiking and adventuring outside and in parks, so he gets to enjoy all that and be in a new place and meet other dogs. So I think he gets more exercise and more adventure than he would have been before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're outside and doing things all the time, so he's never really in the van by himself that much. So we're not worried about him that way. So yeah, I think he really enjoys it.
Cool. So overall, would you say it's a benefit having Caden with you guys, or is it kind of a not annoyance, I guess, but just an extra hurdle sometimes to have to deal with having him there?
We've had Caden for so long. Like we've had him since he was a puppy. He's just like part of our life to have him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really think about it. It's not like, I think if you got a dog while you were living in the van, then there might be some major adjustments that you'd have to go through, but we're just used to having a dog for so long that he's 8.5 now. So we're used to having to make plans for him if we're not going to be home. So it would be the same thing in the van. So we just kind of are used to doing that.
The only concern, I guess, that people ask us about or that we would have would be like just overheating in the van for him. So there's things that we do as far as, making sure that there's ventilation, that he has water, that he's already gone out for the day to, get his exercise, and then just not leaving him too long in the van. Like there's all kinds of different little things that you can do to make sure that like he's safe, but we don't have an issue leaving him in there because he has lots of space and, a bed to lay on. He seems pretty cozy when he's in there.
No.
We also haven't been in really, really hot weather yet. So that does impact. Like we haven't had any issue leaving him in the van because we haven't really been in plus 30 weather yet.
Right.
Celsius, I don't know what that would be.
Like in the 80s or
So
90s.
I think that when the weather gets like that, then we just have to be more conscious not to have him in the van when it's
when
hot.
it's like high noon when it's like really hot and that. So,
Yeah.
but in Canada, it doesn't get like it does in Arizona, or it doesn't get extremely hot, but still hot enough that we'd have to think about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, that's good to hear that, it's all working out. And what I like about, living in the van or having any, RV type of thing is that it's really kind of the only way to travel with a dog. You can't really just hop on a plane easily with a dog and go to hotels and stuff. I mean, you can, but it's a lot more difficult. So that's something that I do really, find as like a huge benefit for van life is that you can bring your pets with you and live with them all the time, and they get to experience this with you, which I think is super cool and fun. And they get to go to all the, national parks and go on these hikes with you and stuff. So that's super cool, I think.
Yeah, it definitely was something that impacted our decision because we do love traveling, and we both have traveled a bit internationally, and that's something that we were like, okay, we really like to do that, but obviously we're not going to just like give our dog away because we want to travel internationally. So part of that was a compromise of like, okay, well, we can live in a van and we can travel North America and South America if we wanted to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So what do you guys I just wanted to ask about like your clothing and kind of closet storage and stuff. Have you guys been able to, making the transition from living in, like an apartment or a house or wherever you guys were, to kind of living in this van? You guys probably had to cut back on your clothing, right?
Yeah, we were
a little bit.
Like we were very minimal before living in the van. We were in the middle of a 2-year renovation of our house, and we didn't want to have a lot of stuff, like whether it was furniture or clothing, during that time anyway. So we're more of the approach that we wanted to buy, like if it was clothing, we buy something nice that can last a long time, it has a good warranty on it, before living in the van. So we did downsize, quite a bit, but we didn't like go through get rid of 90% of our wardrobe because we weren't the people that had that much before, and we still have lots of room in the van for stuff, right? But we have tons of closets. Yeah, like the closets are huge in the van, actually more than like probably our little house before. So, yeah, we just have like those few like really nice pieces. Like I have 2 pairs of pants, a couple pairs of shorts, and a few shirts. Mm-hmm. And Vanessa's the same way, mm-hmm. A couple nice jackets and hats, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Just have quality stuff that you can wear more often. How often do you guys do laundry?
I would say we do laundry once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Just finding a laundromat wherever you guys are and going in there about once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's sometimes where you're traveling in the desert and it might be like a couple weeks. I think whenever we're in like southern Utah.
Yeah.
A
little bit longer.
A little bit longer because you're hitting up like lots of national parks and areas, but maybe not a bigger town that has an affordable laundromat. So it depends.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I was just curious about that. So what do you guys like? What do you think is the biggest downside to van life? Like, what just kind of sucks about it? I mean, I know you mentioned the finding a place to sleep every night, finding a place to park. Do you think that's just the biggest downside, or is there anything else that comes to mind?
There's 2 things I think that come to my mind. One is like being connected with your family and your friends. So it's a lot harder when you're on the road and you're not in service all the time, and you have to make a lot more effort to connect with people. Mm-hmm. Everyone that you've left at home is going about their day-to-day lives like they normally do, and you're not in that anymore. Like you've removed yourself from that sphere, so you have to make a bit more of an effort to stay connected.
Right.
So that's definitely one thing. The other thing that I'd say would be like in terms of trying to run an online business is service and like
Wi-Fi and service
and being connected.
Yeah.
Because you want to be, it's like a catch-22 because you want to be in these like beautiful, wild places, but then those are often the places where you have absolutely no service. So then you're like, okay, well, I should get back to town because I need to like upload stuff, or I have to respond to people's emails or post stuff to social media or whatever it is, right? So I think those are like the two challenges that we've noticed, and the business one might not be applicable to everyone, but I think the family and friends one would definitely apply no matter what.
Mm-hmm. So how do you just try to make an effort to, call and connect with your family more regularly? Is that kind of just how you deal with that?
Yeah, I think we actually just have like a WhatsApp travel group. So our family is on there, and then we'll just like update them when we're in service and let them know what we're up to and send them photos, and they can ask about, whatever's going on, or if they have got questions for us and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's like in general, you can do that just as like photo sharing and then like our family and friends are also on Instagram to follow us that way. And I think sometimes they see us like if we do more uploading of YouTube or Instagram content, they'll think like, oh, well, I am seeing them every day or like seeing their faces. So then maybe they forget to call us or contact us. Yeah. But I think even when we were traveling across Canada or like different places, when you're the one that leaves your town or your area, it's up to you to call back or to stay in contact, right? Like what Vanessa was saying earlier. So we try to make a bit more of an effort to call or to Skype family and friends.
And to put the offer out there. So like with friends, we'll say like if we're in an area where we know we're going to be having service for a while, like for instance, right now we're at my parents' house. So we'll text friends and be like, okay, we're in an area of service for a week or so. So if there's a time that works for you, like we should get on Skype or FaceTime.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Grab like a virtual cup of coffee,
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And then, so how do you guys deal with, do you guys have like an LTE hotspot or anything like that? Or do you guys just try to go into towns and find Wi-Fi? How do you guys work with that?
Well, it was a little bit of a challenge being Canadians in the States doing something like that because we don't have US credit, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the options for hotspots aren't available, or if they are, they're very expensive because we can't do a plan. It's like pay as you go or like a certain amount per gig of data, for instance.
Oh.
It just adds up very, very quickly.
Right.
So we did get a plan with T-Mobile, which was probably like one of the best plans that we found. And we can hotspot to our phone if we need to. However, it goes to 3G, which is essentially useless. So we like if we need to do something on the internet, then we have to get to a town.
But I guess, and that being said, like even if you have that better hotspot, it's still relying off of your cell service. It's not. I still think it's not going to be like as good as going in, to a coffee shop that has really good Wi-Fi, or like a friend or family's house that has a really good internet service. Like if you're just flipping through Instagram or like emails and that sort of thing, it's fine. But if you're uploading content or like trying to work with that sort of thing, then that takes a lot of internet power, I guess, to put it simply. Mm-hmm. So we almost strictly have to go into towns in order to do those sorts of things.
Right. Yeah. It's just a struggle that you got to deal with, but yeah. So you guys are getting it. Cool. Wow. Well, you guys, it's been awesome talking to you guys. You guys are just like killing it. I'm so happy for you guys with your online business and stuff, and it's going good, and it just seems great. And I love your van too. I really do love the look of it. It's so cool. It just feels like great in there. So can you guys just tell everybody where they can find you guys or connect with you if they want to?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can find us. Well, our name is the same, like we were saying before, across all the platforms. So we're Create Wondr, and it's WONDR. So our website is createwondr.com. Our Instagram is Create Wondr. And probably most importantly, too, is our YouTube is Create Wondr. And on there, we share like our van build if people are interested. And then we do vlogs and, topics about van life. And we're very open and honest and respond to everybody that has questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Cool. Yeah. I mean, thanks again, guys. Do you guys have any, parting thoughts or suggestions or anything you'd like to say to, someone who's living van life right now or maybe thinking about doing it?
I think what we always say is you just got to do it. Like, if you're thinking about doing it, then wherever you are in that process, whether you've just had this idea and you own a house and you have all these obligations, or you don't and you're like, okay, I'm 6 months down the road, I already picked out the vehicle I want. No matter what, if this is like something that you're thinking about doing, I think you should put the wheels in motion to make that happen and just have that experience. And it doesn't have to be a permanent experience. Like for us, we love living on the road and we are going to continue doing that, but not everybody has that no end date in mind. A lot of people we've met are like, yep, we're doing this for a year and then we have plans to do something else, or we're doing it for a couple months here and a couple months there. Like everybody's got a different goal, and it's good to just give it a try, because personally for me, I feel like I don't want to make decisions out of fear. Like, what if the worst could happen?
Right.
I want to make my decisions of like, what if this amazing thing could happen? And I think that that's what van life is about, and trying something new and putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the catchword too that we use is like actionable steps, because for us, it wasn't like, poof, we have a van and we're on the road and it's amazing. It took a couple years of making money and like, renovating our house. And it was like a ton of work to like have the money, like to buy the van and to build it out and to have a little bit of money to travel. So, we just said, okay, well, what are all the little steps and who's successful at it and how can we get there? And it took a couple of years, but then we're on the road and we're loving it. So I think it's different for everybody, but any goal, whether it's building a van or a career or a relationship, it's just all these little steps that build up to it. And then all of a sudden after those steps, it's like, poof, we're here. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome, guys. Congrats. You did it. And yeah, I guess it's just to anyone listening, it's possible to do it, and you guys did it and took you a little bit of time, a couple of years, but it's awesome. So super happy for you guys. Thank you again for being on the show and sharing all your info. You guys are just awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Well, have a good one, guys. Have fun. All right.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, this is Travis again. Just wanted to touch on a few things. Episode's over, so you can just turn this off and shut it off now, but had a couple things I wanted to share with you. If you want to listen, if you want to connect with me. Sorry, you might be able to hear my puppy Murphy in the background squeaking on her toy. But just want to share how you guys could connect with us at Campers and Vans Getting Coffee. If you would like, we're on Instagram at Campers and Vans Getting Coffee. We have a website called campersandvansgettingcoffee.com. We're on Facebook at Campers and Vans Getting Coffee, and we're even on Twitter at Campers and Vans Not Getting Coffee. So Twitter is just at Campers and Vans. So if you use Twitter, I'm not really big into Twitter, but you can connect with us there if you want to. That is about it. I just want to say that I appreciate you for listening and appreciate you being here, listening to the end if you are listening to this. And I would really appreciate and love, and it really helps us out if you can leave a review for this podcast. So on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this on, if you could just drop a rating and a quick review. Doesn't even have to be good. You could just be honest, but any sort of rating review really helps. Super appreciate that. And give me any tips, any thoughts, stuff you think we can improve on, or what you like, or questions that you'd like me to ask, or anything like that, or guests that you'd like to have on the show, anything like that. And you could also send me an email if you want to hello@campersandvansgettingcoffee.com. We have an email address, so you can send it there. So thanks again. Thank you for being here and being a part of this. Super appreciate you. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye.